Jeff Goodman. He is none other than Robert Ryan. And we have a special guest on today. We have Milwaukee Bucks general manager Jon Horst down in Orlando. Doesn't look that sunny behind you, John. It looks like maybe you got one of those Orlando downpours.
Yeah, we did. I was ready to do this with you guys outside in the beautiful sun, but now we're inside. Yeah, a little rain going on.
Still got to be better than Milwaukee or Boston. So
a very simple question, John. What's new?
What's new?
I mean, I was kidding. The state of affairs. I mean, how have you guys and all your colleagues and your contemporaries, adjusted to this reality of the craziness that you don't know what's going to happen day to day, right?
Yeah, you don't know. It's incredible. Like there's so much that goes into just getting on the floor to have a game. Last night we had a game. We played the Orlando Magic. There was fans in the seats. There was fans not overly far from the floor. That was a new experience for us. And most of our games have been without fans. So that's something that's new. But the NBA is incredible. Their ability to pivot and adjust and continue to stay on this and put us in a position to play safe and healthy has been great. And we'll just keep moving forward and being ready and being flexible.
All right, let's go back, John. Let's go back. You're a young guy, so we don't have to go back that far. But we're going to go back to your days, Rochester College. You're a Michigan guy, and I'm told you were the superintendent of a trailer park back when you were in college. Is this true? What did that entail?
This is true. I don't know, superintendent, like maybe that sounds really official. I was the head maintenance and kind of manager of a property, a trailer park property, maybe 20 minutes from my college in Rochester. That really got me through college. My first year, my first summer after my freshman year, all the way through college, worked a ton of hours from the entire summer. Gave me an ability to stay in Rochester and continue to play with the team in the off season and make some extra money and enough money to get through each year. The following year, learned a lot of lessons. But yeah, Woodland Hills Trailer Park in Rochester, Michigan was a place of employment for almost 4 years.
What was the worst thing you had to do at the
I don't know if it's appropriate for a podcast in public. It was pretty bad.
All right, I listen, I can only imagine. We don't have to go through it, but I can visualize what you had to do.
So you couldn't come up with a booster with a good no-show job, huh?
I don't know that boosters exist at Rochester College, Bob. I have to tell you, it's an unbelievable education, great basketball environment. I don't know if we really had boosters.
Yeah, we could have used one of those good no-show jobs somewhere,
Yeah.
Now, tell me, when you're 20 years old, 21, what were you projecting? What were you thinking about, where you might be 10 years down the road?
Yeah, it's so not too dissimilar from what I'm doing, believe it or not, in that I've always wanted to be involved in basketball. My dad coached. I've played from a really young age. Love the sport. What I thought I was going to do, and the reason I frankly chose Rochester College, really successful small college program, close in proximity to the Detroit Pistons, then in Auburn Hills, is I wanted to coach. I wanted to figure out a way to take my college playing career, which I knew would end at some point and not go beyond college, and coach basketball. And so at 20 or 21, that was still a dream. Probably 21, 22, 23 transitioned into a front office because I learned about the front office, doing an internship with the Pistons and studying from John Hammond and Joe Dumars and Scott Perry and Jeff Weltman, some of these people that I got to work with early in my career in Detroit. Really learned about what a front office was and the challenges of that and got excited about that. But before that, it was really a goal to coach and to coach at the highest level I could.
Well, you were so, you're 37. So when they won those two back-to-backs in 89 and 90, how aware were you as a young lad?
Yeah, a diehard basketball fan, Isaiah Thomas, Rick Mahorn, Joe Dumars, obviously, John Kelly.
Bill Lambier.
Yeah, Bill Lambier, the whole crew. And for me to have my first initial mentor and person who I worked from and learned from be Joe Dumars, my connectivity to that group, who I was, 7, 8, 9-year-old kid that loved those teams and lived and died by those teams, to be able to, in my 20s and now 30s, still have connections to guys like Isaiah and former Chuck Daly and Bill and just, Rick Mahorn. I played pickup basketball with Rick Mahorn many times, and just different things like that has been a dream come true.
And you live to tell the tale.
Yeah, although if anyone asks, the hardest you've ever been hitting a screen, it's undoubtedly Rick Mahorn has laid me out with screens like you've never felt anything like it. You've
Oh,
seen it, you've witnessed it many a times.
I can believe it. Believe me, I'm well versed in the lore of Rick Bourne. Just
John, I got the scouting report on you as a player.
Boy, I can't wait to hear that.
Plays hard as hell. Shooting a little suspect. I think that's being kind.
Streaky is the positive version of that. Streaky shooter. Yeah.
Streaky shooter. All right, we'll give you streaky shooter,
Yeah.
no problem. Give me kind of, again, your road was Detroit. You go to the Bucks, John Hammond. You're the director of basketball operations in 2017. Describe to me when I think of it from a college perspective, I'm like, all right, that's the guy who, for the Dobo in college, sets a schedule, some of those things. What were you doing before you got the GM job? Because you had a different path.
Yeah, I think, the Dobo in college basketball in NBA is actually a very different role, which is an interesting thing. Very obviously exact titles. And of course it's different in every team too. So in my role with the Detroit Pistons and then with the Milwaukee Bucks in that role, it was a lot of salary cap, a lot of strategy, a lot of contract execution. John, first starting Joe in Detroit and then John in Milwaukee, gave me an incredible runway to work on things and deal with agents and deal with other teams and help negotiate, finer points of deals at the end, work on trades, different things. And so there was a lot of personnel, a lot of transactional roster things, but there was also the traditional kind of assumed role of a Dobo of scheduling and logistics and being a liaison between the league and dealing with different HR issues with staff. And so the role for me, more than the title that John allowed me to have, first Joe, and then John allowed me to have, I got exposure and access to everything that goes on. And so it was really like maybe a great title could have been junior general manager. I mean, I was really being able to generally manage every single day and learn from, I think, the best.
You just got the job done with Giannis, much to the delight of the Milwaukee citizenry. Were you always confident that it would get done, or did he leave you with a little, worries at times about whether he would consent to taking the $200+ million from you guys?
Yeah, we got the job done, and all honesty, yeah, never ever comfortable, or I would say confident, yes, never comfortable until it was done. It's a zero-sum game. It's either 100% yes or it's a no. And until you get the name on the paper and get the signature on the line, I don't know that you have any relief or any real confidence. But I believe and still believe in the organization that we have, the way that we've treated him and his family, the environment he gets to come to every day and work. Coach Bud has done an incredible job. He has great teammates. We've had a lot of success. We haven't done the ultimate. We haven't won a championship yet. But we've had a great level of success over the last couple of years. It gets better and better every year. And I had a lot of confidence in that. But man, are you nervous? That's a massive thing for a city, for a state, for a franchise, for an individual and a role. So it's massive. So never comfortable.
I mean, if you hadn't gotten it done, what can you imagine what this season would have been like? With that being the
John would be in hiding. John would be in hiding.
Almost the second narrative, narrative that it would have been. So there must have been an immense sigh of relief, among other things.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Did you feel a ton of pressure, John? Like, was it sleepless nights? I mean, what was it like for you personally?
Yeah, yes, a ton of pressure. And there's always pressure in any of these jobs. And so I'm accustomed to that. I think it's one of the things that I've been able to do well, and you do it because you have incredible support. I have a great staff, again, a great partner in Coach Bud and Peter Fagan, our team president. So pressure is part of this and you deal with it in certain ways, but it'd be lying if I said that I've ever felt any pressure like that. That's it. Again, it's a massive thing for the franchise, for the organization. And I don't say this lightly, and I say it humbly, for our league, for Giannis to commit to the Milwaukee Bucks and to our franchise. It's proof that you can do it in a smaller market. You can do it by doing things the right way. And it's proof, I think, of the quality and the character of the players in our league. At the end of the day, Giannis had to make a decision. We could do everything that we could possibly do to put us in a position to have success and to have him. But he had to make the decision. His family had to make the decision, and it speaks to the character of who he is. And I think it's really a positive for the entire league.
John, the league scoring is way up. There have been at least 2 games I know of in which each team scored 140 without overtime. And I'm, you know, and I lived through a period of time, we all did, that when it was an ice age, 30, I was just telling Jeff, I came across a stat, your Pistons back in the 1990 once held teams to under 138 straight games. Now, you can't imagine that in this today's day and age. All right, what's going on? There's a theory that nobody wants to guard anybody because of COVID. I don't buy that one, but I'm serious. You know, it's out there. What is it a talk among the league and about this, you know, uptick in scoring and 130 is routine?
So I'll answer your question, but because I'm like a historian and kind of a stat nut, was that the Larry Brown teams? Was that early 2000s that did that?
I got to double check. I think it was back in the you know, in the Chuck days. But Larry, okay. I'm glad you brought up Larry, because people don't realize, they think of him in a certain way, and they don't realize that he was one of the main architects of the defensive.
Incredible defensive coach.
Shots per game. I charted shots per game over the years. You know, it used to be in his 50s and 60s, you had to take 100 shots a game. They thought and then it started dropping gradually. And finally, a Jerry Sloan team became the first one to take under 80 shots a game. And then Larry made it an art form. No one realizes that Larry was a defensive ogre.
A genius. I mean, absolutely. So I think that's a fun stat, because his teams absolutely had a run like that. I think the way the shots that players practice, the things that they practice offensively, the defenses have given the worst shots, you know, historically, and players are getting better at making the worst shots. They're making deep threes. They're getting back into the mid range. They're making the floaters. There's just really, really gifted talent that I think is increasing the offensive kind of output. I also think the indirect, I do think fanless basketball right now, I think reduced travel, you know, in the bubble when we played in Orlando, I just think some of the environmental factors actually are conducive to better offensive output. And I think like short turnarounds, Bob, we had a shortened training camp. We had a shortened preseason, and defense is hard. Defense is tactical. It's a game of inches. And I think until you really get tuned in and really focused in on the right details in defense, that's going to struggle. All that being said, I think it'll come back. And I think there is some great defensive teams and great defensive performers. Obviously, Giannis being Defensive Player of the Year, one of them. I think that as the season progresses, I don't think that we'll have, 130, 140 point scoring averages to top our league. But shoot, you had the Dallas Mavericks last year, the best offensive team in the NBA, put up a ton of points. Right now, we're 1 or 2. I think in the league offensively, we're scoring a ton of points. I think it'll kind of regress back to the normal.
We all know the playoffs traditionally will, have a different brand of basketball.
Yeah.
And all that. And I know it will come down, but still, this is a start. These are startling numbers compared to what we once saw. I was kidding Jeff. I said, this is like, I grew up with the Eastern League. It's just like the Eastern League in 1964, Hazleton versus the Allentown Jets, but anyway, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah.
John, all the moves you made, getting Drew, Portis, DJ, re-signed our boy, and we'll get to Connaughton down the road. We got to spend a few minutes on Connaughton. That's my guy.
We got a Boston crew here. We got to talk about Pat, right?
That's right. So how much did that impact Giannis? Those guys, I mean, I thought the Drew trade was phenomenal. I think everybody did across the league. But how much did that in its totality, do you think, convince Giannis to stay, because you guys were making moves that you could fight for a title?
I think it mattered. Yeah, I think it helped. I think it mattered. Again, you go back to the foundation that had been built and so much that was in place with starting with the ownership and the way that they've invested in the team and Coach Bud and his staff and the success that we had. I think those things played a major part, of course. But Giannis, like all of us, has an expectation to get better every single day, to improve the team, to not kind of rest and settle on past successes, but to push the envelope. And that's what those transactions were for us as a front office staff. That's one of my roles with this organization, is to not rest on what we've done and just be satisfied with that, but to continue to push and try to get better and improve. And we've had a really good team. We've had the best regular season record the last 2 years. We've done historic things offensively and defensively. We had a conference finals run 2 years ago. We had a shortened season in the bubble last year, but we've had a lot of success, but that's not good enough. And whether they work or not, Jeff, I don't know, but the idea behind it was to make the team as best that we could and to make the right moves to try to continue to improve. And I don't think that we did that because we're trying to convince Giannis to stay. We did that because it's our job. Our job is to continue to get better and to put him in the best position to win every single day. And starting with Drew, who's been great so far, and Bobby Portis and Bryn and Torrey Craig and DJ Augustine, bringing Pat back, our draft picks, all those things were really intentional tactical moves to try to make this team better than it's been in the past.
Excuse me, John, what is scouting like now in COVID? Both the advanced scouting of the league, and I'm more interested actually in college scouting and international scouting that was such an important part of the league. What's happening? How do people handle this situation right now?
Yeah, I'm sure it's different across the board. I can tell you for us, it's become very remote. Obviously, there's a lot more video work. We were already transitioning and pushing that way anyways, to be more video based, but there's a lot of that. We have 5 consultants kind of across the globe that have been established the last 3 or 4 years. For us, that's been a great benefit because there's not really an access point for domestic scouts to go international right now. It's not safe. I would never let our guys do that. But the fact that we have scouts, in Asia, in Africa, in Europe, in South America, we have a connected point there, which has been great for us. So we have someone that we can connect to and can actually work. So we've been able to do well, I think, internationally over this time period. A few of my scouts are, if they're comfortable, they're in the cars and they're driving to games that they can go to. And if they're not comfortable for their own personal reasons, then I'm not making them do it. We're just doing the best that we can in the midst of all of this. In some ways, I think, Bob, I think it'll change the league's approach to scouting, because I think we're all going to learn that we can do the job and do it really, really well with not having as much time in person on the road as what we're used to. I think it's still very important. You have to be in the gym. You have to feel the game. You have to see the talent up close. You have to talk to the coaches. You have to build those relationships. But I don't know that you need to do that 25 or 30 times for each prospect like we have in the past. You might be able to do that 5 or 10 times, and you might be able to supplement it with meetings and video work and stat dives and things like that. So it was already trending that way, in my opinion. For sure, it was in our organization. I think it'll have a lasting impact on the league.
Yeah, I think a lot of the money, listen, to me, like you said, there's a lot of money that's spent over the years traveling and seeing guys that was honestly unnecessary. So I do think, but this year it's going to be hard because a lot of guys aren't laying eyes on these guys at all in person. So do you feel like there'll be a lot more mistakes made in next year's draft than there have been?
It's interesting. It's going to be a great study for hopefully a 2-year period. Last year I didn't feel at all inadequate at the draft. I thought we were beyond covered. We had more time than we ever had. We had done a ton of video work, but we had that base foundation of seeing these guys in person and live up until the pandemic hit, really, until the hiatus happened. And so you had that foundation. Now we're starting a new scouting season without that foundation. If we end with that, right? If we end with able to be really in live and doing live scouting, I think we'll feel the same. If we don't end with that, it'll be a whole nother phase, right? So we went from one phase to the second into the third. And so I can't really predict exactly what that'll feel like or if mistakes will be made. I just think we'll continue to do the best that we can with kind of the parameters that are there and try to make the best decisions. But I can tell you this past draft, I felt great. Well, again, who knows if it works or not. I felt great through
March, but you did you got the entire college basketball season, really.
Yeah, with a big foundation. I don't know if we'll have that or not. It's interesting to see how
you will
play out.
I mean, I'd be shocked if, again, like you said, you can go to certain places like I can. I did like 4 days at Mohegan Sun. Yeah. I haven't been to a game since. If I want to go to a BC game, I can, but I can't go to Providence or Rhode Island. So I don't know how many college games have you been to this year in person?
Yeah, so me 0, because the way that the parameters are, the league's protocols are set up, which rightfully so, it's almost impossible. You kind of have to choose. You have to be with your team as an executive, or you can scout. So I've personally been to 0. You know, my scouts, like I said earlier, my scouts have been to a handful of games. We're in a great, for scouting basketball from a car ride to be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin is great. I mean, we can get to Iowa, we can get to Illinois, we can get to, Madison, like all these different areas. So we've had a good opportunity, but I don't know. I don't know when the first time is I'll go watch a college game live.
John, this is going to be the 50th anniversary of the Milwaukee Bucks one championship. And are there any plans to commemorate, or would you rather not call attention to the fact that there's only been one in the franchise's history?
Well, I think, Peter Feigin can answer the question better about the plans, but I can tell you, like, we're proud of our history. So not every franchise can even host one and hold up one. So I think we're proud of our history. We educate our players on the history, our staff on the history of the franchise. But by no means do we focus a lot of time on looking back. We're pretty excited and looking forward and setting new history standards. But no, we're proud of the championship. And for me, it's fun. One of the best things about this job is the people that you get access to and that you get to learn and spend time with. And John McLaughlin, someone who I've spent a ton of time with, was a major part of that championship team and obviously our Bucks history. And to be able to have different, interactions with Kareem or Oscar over the years, just to be able to spend time with the guys that were part of those groups and actually know them, and then to commemorate those moments. It's pretty cool to have that access.
Just so you give your team something to shoot for. That team shot 51% from the floor as a team, and had a 12-point margin of plus 12 per game, 118 points a game to 106. So and the other thing is, I thought this is how the world's changed. The starting forwards were 6'6" and 6'5". Bobby Dandridge and Greg Smith.
You said the starting point guards or starting forwards?
No, the forwards. The point guard was Oscar. The point guard was Oscar at 6'5", and McLaughlin, who was 6'5" also. Yeah. So Lou Alcindor was the center, by the way.
Yeah.
Not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And they put 4 6'5s around him, and it worked out pretty well because he went for 31 and 16 that year. En route to his MVP.
I learned something on this pod every week, John. Every single week, I learned plenty from before you were definitely born, and a lot of times before I was born as well. All right, let's get to our boy from Boston, Pat Connaughton. Can he play? Can we let him play baseball and hoop at the same time? Like, have you seen him throw? Can he still hit 95? What do we think? Is he going to give baseball a try, or is this full hoops?
Pat, I think you'd have to ask him, but Pat and I are very close. We spend a lot of time together. He's full hoops. He's a junkie. He loves hoops. There's a reason why someone who's as good or was as good at baseball as he is and was plays in the NBA, because he loves hoops, and he's really good at it. I always joke with him, don't forget you're a great basketball player, not just a shooter. You're not just an athlete, like you're a basketball player. And I think, he's talented enough and gifted enough, as you guys know, that maybe when he's done with basketball, who knows what he'll try next. I mean, he's into his real estate, and he's a very dynamic, impressive young man, and so thankful that we were able to get him a couple of years ago, keep him now. I've seen him throw his fastball. I don't know if it's still 95, but he still got heat. He threw the opening pitch at a Brewers game maybe a year or two ago, and it wasn't maybe the most accurate throw, and he can laugh about that, but it had a lot of heat. I can tell you that.
What's your best Connaughton story? I mean, I always tell people, like, the one thing with Pat, he's so mature and he's so honest, but he doesn't offend people. And that's a gift, right? Like, that's hard to do. I'm honest. I offend people like that. That's just the way I am. Pat, he's somehow, everybody likes Pat, even though there's no BS with Pat.
Yeah, I've got a lot of great stories, and I'll share the best one, I guess, and at risk of probably getting myself in trouble, or for sure him in trouble, but it was a non-incident, so we're good. So this is maybe a month or two into after us signing him. We're in LA, we're playing the Lakers and the Clippers, and we're staying in Santa Monica, and I just say, hey, Pat, you want to go out and have dinner? He's like, I'd love to have dinner. So we went to a steakhouse, and he and I and Dave Dean, who works with me, we had a great dinner. And we're walking back to the hotel after dinner, and there's the birds, the limes, the little scooter things. He's like, man, you guys ever ride these? I'm like, no, Pat, I've never rode these. He's like, let's go. And I'm thinking in my mind, I just signed a contract. I'm pretty sure there's a place in the contract that says we're not supposed to ride things. And you and I signed it. We're literally the two people that signed it. But sure enough, like he and I jump on the birds and we're riding the birds like kind of around Santa Monica. And so my first kind of Lime scooter experience and maybe my last was with Pat Connaughton. For sure, neither of us were supposed to be riding them.
I love the way you very casually and accurately describe the dispersal of your scouts across the globe. You didn't mention Antarctica, by the way, but I mean, I am fascinated by the globalization of the league. I love to point out to people, and this is a funny little subplot, that the first European who came into the league without American background at all, no high school, no college, was a guy named Georgi Guchkov, who the Suns had in 84, 85. And he was a Bulgarian. There's never been another Bulgarian. He was the first. Anyway, can you imagine? All right, we digress. Can you imagine the league without the 100+ international players and the idea that basketball would not be an international game? I mean, this is all you've known for the most part, right?
I can't imagine it. And as Jeff said, I've just learned something new too. And the fact that it was 84, 85, I was alive. So shame on me for not having that stat. But no, I think, man, I can't imagine. It wouldn't be right. And I imagine that this was David Stern's and now Adam Silver's vision and plan. Our league is so globalized. It's for someone like me who's fortunate enough to be able to travel around the world to scout talent and to be in different places and to see the passion in different countries for the NBA, for Giannis, for Luka, for all these players that have transformed, are currently transforming our league and spreading, Kobe, in Asia, and just the different things that have happened. It's the passion for the NBA across the globe is massive, and I cannot imagine a league that's not represented by the international players that we have. And it's so much. The other thing I would say about, I think it's transformed the quality of the basketball. The NBA basketball is really, really quality in my opinion. It's very fundamental. The guys play hard. They play with IQ. They play together. It's a team game. I think it's a really high quality product that we have. And I think the international impact is massive in that.
Where would we be without the Euro step?
Very true.
In your travels, have you been to Lithuania?
I have.
Okay.
I have been to Lithuania.
Just give me something there, because it's the Indiana of right, the Indiana of Europe supposedly, and I think when you were talking earlier about the impetus where it came from, that Olympic victory in '88 was not Soviet Union. That was the Lithuanian All-Stars, and Marcelonis, Sabonis, etc. And I think that was where people said, my God, there's really good players out there. We better start checking them out. Anyway, tell me about Lithuania, anything you can tell us.
I'll give you like a basketball nugget and I'll give you a non-basketball nugget. So Lithuania, what I remember about scouting the games there, I've only been to Lithuania maybe 3 or 4 days in total, but probably 2 different trips. They have incredibly hard playing, tough physical guards. And if you're a big, which a lot of our NBA players that have come from Lithuania are your 6'11", your 7, like the bigger guys, you stand out amongst the rest of the population. And so it's like if you go to scout a game, the majority of the Lithuanian player are these really hard playing, kind of undersized physical guys. And then these guards are kind of standing like, a tree amongst, shrubs basically that are out there. And you just watch these guys shooting the jump hooks and their skills and whatever. It's a pretty unique environment. It's not like that in every country. The other countries, it's more similar to like what you would see in a basketball product here. But in Lithuania, that's one of the things that stands out. The non-basketball in their arenas, in their concession stands, the ones that I've been to, they sell beer, they sell cigarettes, and they sell these what I would call big croutons that you dip in mayonnaise that are the most unhealthy, but best kind of little snack that you could ever get in an arena. And that's it. You can't really get anything else. You can get a drink and you can get these croutons dipped in mayonnaise.
So do we have smoke-filled arenas like the old Madison Square Garden? Is that what we're
No, you have smoking sections outside of the arenas.
Okay.
I haven't been, there's still some places where you can get smoke-filled arenas in Europe. Absolutely. But not Lithuania.
I can tell you, I was at the old Garden, 48th and 8th, and I remember those smoke-filled arena days.
John, I was in Lithuania for 10 days.
Oh, wow. So did you have the croutons?
I did not have the croutons. I had the double hot dog. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't.
The double hot dog. My favorite story. I'm not going to get into why I was in Lithuania. If you remember back, you can recall why I got sent to Lithuania for ESPN, for a certain father and two sons. But I was over there. Jimmy Barron. I don't know if you remember that name. Jimmy Barron was over there, and I had known him since he was about 15 years old. He was playing for a team over there in Connaughton, and he said he never went out. You know, father, young daughter. So I'm like, come on, we got to go out. Like, I'm in Lithuania. I haven't seen you in years. We got to go out. So we go out and we meet one of his teammates, and they're not supposed to go out, I guess. So we meet one of his teammates and we get escorted to the back room. And it's exactly what you would think when you think of like a Lithuanian, like, club back room. And I'm not a big drinker. Like, if I'm a drink, I'm gonna have a beer, a couple beers, whatever. And this dude is like, all right, you're drinking. Like, I'm like, all right, I'll have like, one vodka. No, bottles upon bottles of vodka and tequila. I'm like, no, I can't hang with you. He's 6'9", 260. Your typical Lithuanian. They just start sending stuff back. I'm like, Jimmy, we got to leave. Like, there's no way I can hang with this dude. But yeah, the country is amazing, Bob. It really, I mean, their passion for basketball, the people there are super, like, I love the experience to see that. I didn't love why I went, but I loved being in Lithuania and seeing that country and the people and their passion for basketball. It's
a basketball country. They have incredible arenas. Like, a lot of their arenas are brand new. So you talk about like the smoke field. It's not that. They have these brand new built, I would say, kind of state of the art arenas. They might not hold 20,000 people. They might hold, 10 or 15, but they have really, really nice basketball facilities.
The phrase punching above your weight comes to mind. You remember that in 2000, they almost beat the US and it came down to the last shot in Melbourne and Sydney. And Donnie Nelson was associated with them at the time. And I was sitting with him afterward, and he said, I can't do this anymore, because it's just I'm too torn now, it's too emotional. But he explained why. He said, they're the most like us, the way they play. That's why they're the ones, they play the most. This is 20 years ago. But right. 21. They said they're the most like us, but I don't know if I'm sure John, that Donnie was very associated with them. He was, but I remember I'm sitting with him and he goes, Bob, I can't do it anymore, and they've gotten too good now, so it's one thing to help them climb the ladder, the little team that could. Suddenly they almost beat the US. Wait a minute, I'm going to be coaching a team that's going to beat the US? I don't think so. That wasn't what I had in mind.
Hey, John, I've met Giannis a couple times and blown away. And again, I've talked to Pat enough about him, so I know what he's about, the fabric of Giannis, and you never hear a bad word about him. Like, what does he do for your organization to have a star that conducts himself that way, that doesn't appear, you always talk about, like, everybody's got an ego. I always say Steph Curry's the one guy to me that, like, hasn't changed since I met him at Davidson, or even before that. He has not changed. Most stars change. Has Giannis changed?
And I would say, like you said, everyone changes. I think I've changed, you've changed, Giannis. I would argue that Steph has changed. I think everyone changes. It's just like what's implied there when people ask that question is, have they changed for the worse? Or are they more of an ego, or are they, separate themselves? And I would say absolutely not. Has Giannis changed for the better? I'd say absolutely. And the ways that he has grown on the court is obvious. You can all see it. We can chronicle it. We can go look at it. Off the court, as a teammate, as a father now, as a brother, as a partner and a friend with me, and just every level, as a business person, his maturity and growth from someone who I met, his first day in the US after we drafted him to where he is now today is amazing. And it's a credit, I think, to his focus, to his ethos, to who he is, the culture and character of where he's grown from and who he is. And hopefully, Milwaukee and our organization and the people around him have played a role in helping him grow and his teammates grow, and will continue to do so. But he's absolutely changed, but in my opinion, in all the right ways and all the good ways. And I think that's what you want out of any player or any person that you work with. But to have that be in the package of a superstar, the best player in the world, who's now 26 years old and has this incredible runway to continue to grow and evolve and develop, the foundation that he's shown and the way that he's going to grow and the way that he's going to change is pretty encouraging.
Last one I have for you is just about kind of where we're at right now. We started that way with Bob asking about how crazy it is for you. What do you think should be done? Like, what would, I know you don't want to tell Adam Silver how to run his job. I'm not
Never.
asking you to do that.
Never.
Yes, I know you got to be careful there. But is it? We've seen games be canceled and postponed here in the last few days. Is it expanding the rosters? Is it making sure that everybody's wearing masks? Is it making sure that they're not going out for dinners? What are the things? Because I've seen this in college, right? Like, life has gone on, not perfect, but you've got a lot more teams, right? A lot. So if you've got right now, you got 40 teams that aren't playing in college. Well, you've still got another 300. It's not as big a deal. But if you have 5 teams that aren't playing in the NBA, well, that means you've got those 5 teams aren't playing 5 others.
Right.
You've only got, a small amount. So I guess my biggest question to you is, what do you think can be done to try and make sure that this season runs? There's going to be hiccups. We know that.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a lot of the things. I would tell you to speak a little bit above that and more generally, I think what should be done is being done. And I started by answering the credit to the NBA, and I'll go back to it. And it's what's being done is that we constantly meet and talk and discuss and figure out how to pivot and take the next step. And you do everything that you possibly can with rules and protocol and compliance to position yourself as best as possible for the moment. And then something happens and you have to be able to adjust. And the league has been amazing. I think, collectively as general managers, collectively as team presidents, there's a lot of brain power. There's a lot of great ideas and thoughts, and in the league, to their credit, has really dove in with us, and they're listening to us, and we're adjusting. We're trying to figure it out together. And, increasing roster size and mask wearing and social distancing and all the things, all the kind of hot button keywords and topics that you're hearing about and reading about and thinking about are the same things that we talk about, but we're trying to apply it. And you try to apply it in a way. We can't just continue to play games at a rapid pace without also considering the ramifications of the body. Like, COVID is a major factor, and we have to adjust for COVID, but so is the health of the players with soft tissue and injuries and fatigue and the quality of the product. And so it's a massive undertaking that I think we are best suited of any league because of the leadership that we have with Adam and his staff and the way that they collaborate with us and try to figure out a best resolution. We'll see. I mean, we're early in it, but I think so far we've had a few cancellations, sure, but I think we've had a lot of success and we're on the right path.
Perfect. Well, listen, we appreciate you joining us. I know Bob does.
Yeah, very enjoyable, John.
Yeah, thank you guys. My pleasure.
Now, John, that you're on Bob Ryan's podcast.
It is on the bucket list. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys. It was awesome.
Likewise, be good, be safe, and hopefully